on. Great. And these will be uploaded to our website within a couple of days. Okay, so the plan for today, this is a webinar where I'm going to go over some curriculum activities. These are on Thinkific, but we'll just go kind of directly to the Google Drive. The Google Drive is linked on our Thinkific curriculum right at the top. I'm not going to have time to go over every single lesson, but I'm going to focus on 3 specific lessons. Well, I mean, they're lessons, but they could also just be kind of activities within a they can be quite short or they can be quite long, it depends. So I'll go over 3 of them in some detail and then just kind of glance over the remaining 3 to see, yeah, so that you have an idea. But you know, feel free, I'll just put the link in the chat. You can start clicking through things and have a look, at any questions that come up, please let me know. Okay, so first of all, before we do anything, this is once you do get to the curriculum, there's kind of an intro page, and this quote is on there. I did some reading around the internet to find out, to give some more context about STEM identity. So here is a quote that kind of defines STEM identity. Does someone who doesn't want to read it? Or I can read it. Anyone want to read it?
I'll read it. Oh, thank you so much, Kanisha.
Okay. STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics identity has been defined as the way people make the concept of fitting in within STEM fields, specifically the way individuals make meaning of science experiences and how society structures possible meanings. People who have developed STEM identities can be described as those who think about themselves as science learners and develop an identity as someone who knows about, uses, and sometimes contributes to science.
Thanks. Okay, so I found there's another quote as well in the curriculum that I found that you might like. Aja, can you copy in the prompt into the chat? Can you see where that is? So when you read that, I just wanted you to see if can you think, and we can just talk about this because there's only a few of us. Can you think of a student, you know, you're both teaching right now, that kind of jumps out as someone who would benefit from having their STEM identity nurtured? So maybe someone who you would like them to think of themselves as a sciencey person or a STEM person, but they don't. So can you think of somebody that needs some help with their STEM identity? And can you think of any experiences that you think might help them develop their STEM identity? So we've got this kind of big definition, but that people who do have a strong or developed STEM identity think about themselves as science learners. So that when they're given a science task, they're like, yes, this is something that I can do. Do you have someone in mind, Walt?
I teach a beginning computer programming class and an advanced programming class, and in both there are students who are just barely toying with the idea of doing computer science and being a STEM person. You know, they don't have to be experienced to take these classes. So I was trying to think of a specific person this year, but I've definitely had students over the years that maybe were even in the class and doing well, but didn't identify as a programmer or a sciencey person. So this is a fascinating question. Yeah.
Do you have any experience of specific activities that have helped them be like, oh, maybe this is my thing, maybe I'm good at this?
I did bring in, there's a book called Code. I forget who it's by. I have I have it right here, by Charles Petzold. And I had in my advanced class, I had the students read that book, read some chapters of it towards the end of the year, and some of the kids, one of the kids actually said, when we got to the second week, he said, oh, I already read all that. I went home and I got my parents to buy me the book.
Oh, wow.
So there was quite a development there. So I think like
Wow.
it was just a different, you think reading a book, not
Right, just
everybody
a different
wants to do
medium.
that, but it really that was the thing that we'd been programming all year, but I think that's what got him really excited.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so just providing
A different
learning opportunities.
a different angle on it all.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone spring to mind for you, Kenisha?
I have a lot of students where it gets nurtured. I called the parent of one of my former students who's now a freshman because it was something I forgot in my class. And every everything that I was telling him last school year, I was just hoping that he would take hold of it when he was in high school because of his skill set, his leadership, and things of that sort. So I've been trying to nurture that with him ever since he was a sixth grader. I had him sixth, seventh, and eighth. And now I'm like, he's gone. And I'm like, I need him to get into this organization that would help him. So when I found out last night that he found out this organization, he can get a part of it. I'm like, okay, good. He's making the right steps in getting in there because it would give him what he needs. Because I know he's been struggling being a high schooler first year. So I'm glad that he's taking the steps, and I think he'll be just fine once he gets in there because he's comfortable in what we've been doing the last couple of years. So I'm glad he's coming in, and I've nurtured as much as I can.
Some personal like attention and personalized help. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I think of, I taught chemistry and environmental science, and the people who spring to mind the most, I would say probably are girls. I definitely would hear a lot more girls than boys tell me, oh, I'm not a science person, even when they were like, getting A's, doing great, totally understanding everything. That was just that. It's like, oh, this is not my thing. So yeah, and I think of, activities. I didn't really do any identity stuff until the last couple of years that I was teaching, when I learned more about how helpful it can be. And yeah, I think you just never know. Like something like doing, building a solar suitcase can really like have a big impact. The hands-on real life experiences, or designing something that is real life, or working with some professional. I think those are all activities that I've seen have had some kind of impact, and representation, obviously, of course, is huge. I remember taking kids to SF State. There's a science lab there that's really big on diversity, and we had this young Latina student talking to my kids, and I was with two Latina students who were in 10th grade, and this girl, I couldn't have like planned it more perfectly. And those necklaces with your names on, her said scientist. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then afterwards I was like, did you guys see her necklace? And they were both like, yeah. And you could just see them like, stuff going off in their brains, because they're like, she looks like me and she is a scientist, and she says she's a scientist. And that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Nothing to do with me. She just happened to be there, but yeah, it was very cool. Okay, so let's start looking at some of these activities. All right, so hopefully you have opened up the curriculum. I'm just going to go through 3 of the activities. The first one, so these were developed alongside this 2-week summer program that we did 3 years in a row, and we kind of kept changing the curriculum, and this was our final iteration. And somebody that we worked with gave us the idea that we should really start by making a connection with kind of ancient and indigenous knowledge and practices when we're looking at solar, because we're looking at like super technological modern stuff, but humans using the sun is obviously not a new thing. It's an old thing. And it's not a necessary, it's not like a science thing. It's a human thing. So I think I'll just put great. So in the curriculum, you have this as something you can cut up if you want. I just made this today. I'll make another copy that is is available online to everybody. But basically, I found I came up with 8 different examples of ways that humans have used the sun as part of their culture. So we're not starting from any kind of scientific point of view or STEM point of view. We're just looking at at culture. So I found this culture wheel, which I just thought was nice and simple, that breaks down elements that make up a culture. And this could be, a culture could be obviously like the culture of a country or a religion or a certain community, but it could also be like a much smaller culture, like, a gaming culture within a school, the kids that play games, or skateboarders, there are loads of different cultures. And helping youth understand that they are capable of like adding to and sustaining their culture, either the culture from their home or a culture that they're part of at school, or the culture specifically of a classroom, can be quite empowering. That culture is, constantly changing, and different people can participate and build it. Is an interesting to think about. So I found these examples from all around the world, and all throughout time. So, and what I had the students do was they had these as little cards in small groups, and they had this as a bigger piece of paper, and together they just tried to determine, for example, like they look at this one: Neolithic Chinese villages had the sole opening of their homes face south. This caught the rays of the sun for passive solar heating. Chinese urban design used this idea for thousands of years. So, passive solar heating, not a new concept. And then they were to look at this wheel and try and decide, like, where does it go? How does that fit into a culture? And there's no one right answer. Anyone have any opinions where that one might go? Where you would put that into a culture wheel?
My internet just cut out, so I don't know if you just asked me.
I was just asking if either of you,
Sorry.
That's okay, as to where this specific example, like, where would you put that in?
Traditions and rituals.
Traditions and rituals. Right, the traditional way of building a house. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Techniques and skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can see how you can go through these different examples, and then the goal was to then get students to think, oh, I have this other example from my culture. Maybe it's it's a story from my religion, or it's a specific practice that we do at home, and then hopefully this will prompt them to come up with some ideas of ways that the sun shows up in their culture, and to just try and make that kind of personal connection, but bigger than personal, cultural connection to the sun before we start looking at the sun in terms of thinking about solar energy. So yeah, so this is a Jamboard, but then you also have it available as I'm just open the curriculum actually. You also have it available as some handouts. So that's in this one here. Here's the card sort, here's the cultural, and then there's a lesson plan. In the lesson plan, I found, I couldn't believe this when I found it. I was looking for, have you seen Moana?
No, I have not.
You haven't?
I have seen it before.
I have a young child who's obsessed with it, so I've seen it many times. I know all the words to all the songs. In one of the songs about Maui, well, when Maui's singing about himself, he says, there's a line where he's like, oh, and I lassoed the sun to stretch your days and bring you fun. Turns out that Disney didn't make that up. That is a legit myth. And I found a video about it. It's a bit long. It's a bit, I wish it was a bit shorter for this kind of context, but it's a story. It's an ancient story about slowing down the sun. I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is what we do with solar panels, right? We have the sun's only out certain hours of the day, but we want to use its power later in the day or early in the morning. So we slow down the sun by saving that power. So there's just something to look into if you think your kids would be interested in it. Middle school kids did find it hard to make specific connections. I have to say I had to help them a lot with that. I think older kids would be able to though. We've then also got this pretty cool art lesson. If you have, you need some extra materials for this, but if you have little mini solar cells like this, you can attach them to a motor, get a CD, stick a popsicle stick on the back, drill a hole in it, put that on the motor, and then take it out and it spins, and it's super cool. They can just draw on them with Sharpies, they can decorate them with anything, and then they just look really, really cool. So the prompt that I gave my students was to like design something that represented how they felt about the sun or something like that. So it's just a really like fun, engaging, and it's solar power, you know, it's very quick, very simple. Thought about if you have mini solar cells and motors. So yeah, so that's that first one. Bit different, probably. I mean, I'd never done anything like this before as a science teacher, but it was an interesting way to start off a unit in terms of thinking about, yeah, a larger cultural connection to what we were learning about. Any questions about that?
No, I think that's awesome. It has, I know a lot of the things that are covered in a lot of the things I teach, we start with the basics of history, understanding the people and things of that sort. So that kind of gives them context of the direction we're going, you know, you would go in and looking at things before you get into the hands-on portion of stuff. So I think that's wonderful and creative and innovative.
Great. Well, hopefully you'll use it or use some form of it. You know, obviously all this stuff is definitely adaptable for your situation, wherever you're doing in your classroom. Okay, this one, I mean, I completely just took this from the internet, but then I added like a couple of questions. When I was teaching during the pandemic, and in the aftermath of the George Floyd murder, we did a lot of teacher training online about, you know, anti-racist education and what we could do in our classrooms. And something similar to this came up, but I was teaching high school. It was much more complex. It was like a social identities matrix where we did it as teachers and I did it with kids the following year, and it worked really well, but they were seniors. You know, look at all the different aspects of your identity, and then try and, you know, make some comments about power and privilege and like how your identities shape like how you're seen in the world and how you see other people, etc. This is a more more accessible version of that because it's just blank, which is definitely better for middle school kids. I've definitely had kids so they can only fill in 2 of these and then they're just really stuck, which is super interesting. So it's good to, you know, to help kids think about their identity and who they are. So basically, yeah, this comes from Teaching Tolerance, which I think has now changed its name. It's a good place for resources. And let me I'll go back to the curriculum so you can see everything. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so in the lesson plan and this can be pretty quick activity. This isn't necessarily a whole lesson, but if you complete one of these yourself, if you feel comfortable doing that, one of these handouts, it looks like that looks like this, and you obviously as an adult, I mean, I found when I did this, the things that I told them, like if I had written this when I was your age, I wouldn't have put this thing, I wouldn't have put this thing, I might have put this, I might have put that. So it's you know, there's just lots of interesting, so if you can model it, it's kind of easier for them to think of some things that they can write in there. I also made sure that they knew that this was going to be semi-public. We weren't going to stick it on the wall or anything, but, you know, the person sitting next to them was going to see it. So if they had a part of their identity that they weren't really ready to talk about or were still thinking about, they shouldn't write it on there because people were going to see it. So it was interesting to see what people came up with. And then, so these questions, again, I took these from the Teaching Tolerance curriculum that was already developed, but then I added some with some consultation from various people to make it more relevant to thinking about STEM identity. So for example, and then I had the kids, the way that this worked best was have them in a group of 4. Have you ever done the discussion strategy where you have, it's called like fan pick question or something? It's linked in the lesson plan. So basically you have all these questions, the first kid fans them out, the next kid picks one, the third kid reads it, and then the fourth kid answers. It's just like just a way to and then you keep moving so that you have more, you know, it's just a strategy, a protocol, to hopefully encourage people to speak. I noticed kids like heads getting closer, and these were students that didn't know each other that well at that point, and really listening to what each other had to say. So it was pretty interesting. I even felt a couple of times I felt like I needed to like move away because they seemed to be having such serious conversations that I didn't want to intrude. So there are some questions that I added are things like, which parts of your multicultural identities make you feel most at home in STEM classes at school? Which ones don't? Do any parts of your identity make you more or less likely to be interested in following a STEM career, etc.? So some pretty deep questions, which, you know, definitely could go into long conversations. Depends on what your class is like. If you have a class that's really talkative, you could talk about this for hours if people are really keen to share. But it may be, depending on their age, that they're not, you know, they're not so into that, and that so a small group conversation might work better. And this, I mean, doing this in a science or you know, STEM class might seem out of the ordinary, but yeah, the goal is to kind of make the STEM experience more relevant to the rest of your lives, and to be critical, to have that kind of ability to be critical of the wider world and start to understand. We don't want to tell all kids like, oh, STEM is going to be great, you're going to be fine, you're good at STEM, go off and like do everything, because they need to understand that, you know, there are barriers, and we want them to like be aware of those barriers, but also not be put off by them, which is a huge ask. So this is kind of a start in terms of like talking and listening and sharing and validating, you know, things that people might think about, like why they don't like STEM, or why they don't think they might want to go into STEM, that might bring up some kind of deeper topics for discussion. Any questions or comments about that? Okay, this one is cool. I took this from a book, so I don't know if either of you had a chance to listen to, I sent out a podcast. It's only 20 minutes long. If you have time, it's worth listening to. There's this author, Dr. Christopher Edman. He's written a book called STEM, STEAM, Make, Dream, and that's all about all of this, like how to help build STEM identity in students, specifically students of color. And this lesson was from that book, so I adapted it and I made my own stuff. But you should, if you do use this, you should definitely adapt it for your community, so that you've got people that are relevant to where you are and who your kids are. So this is the third one. Okay, analyzing a STEM identity. All right, so there's a lesson plan. There's a handout for kids to fill out, but this is kind of the meat of it. So basically, I created slides. A lot of I'm coming from a solar perspective, so an environmental science perspective. So there's people here that you've almost certainly never heard of, but they're STEM professionals. So we've got some solar people, some environmental activist people. You've probably heard of Albert Einstein. Although I found out, I didn't realize how many different countries he lived in as a kid. I had no idea. He like moved countries multiple times. So yeah, something interesting to learn there. Marine biologist, George Washington Carver, you've probably heard of. May Carol Jemison, you've probably heard of. A youth climate activist, Iranian mathematician who won the Nobel Prize, I think. And then this was Arjun's edition. A computer scientist and digital activist called Joy Buolamwini. So just a range of people that don't necessarily fit kind of the stereotypical, like what people might. I'd be interested to see how. I feel like this has changed a lot over the years, but the first request of students is to draw a stereotypical STEM professional, or brainstorm characteristics that they would use to describe one. So you might expect them to, you know, draw somebody in a lab coat with crazy hair, for example, holding a test tube or something like that. Apparently, most times kids are asked to do this, they draw white men. I don't know how true that would be. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. So then if you can show them this, so that I have a handout, and you can, you know, obviously you can edit these however you want. There's a handout where it's just pictures, which you could use, or you can use the slides with no words. And just, you know, by looking at these people, kids try and guess, like, what do you think they do? And then you can give them all the information on the slides. And then it gives them a chance to, you know, once they see, and maybe they're surprised, like, oh, that woman's actually she's a marine biologist. You know, it gives them a chance to kind of challenge their own, you know, initial thoughts, you know, by implicit biases that maybe are coming up on like what they assume people are doing. You should definitely look at you know, if you do use this, I think checking to see that your student body is represented here would be definitely worthwhile. So if, you know, you have a certain demographic that's just not represented, yeah, find someone who represents your kids. Is there anybody that, just kind of looking at these, do you see anybody here that you're, I mean, I do really just mean like from looking into, maybe look, and also some of their like personal information. Do you see anybody that your kids might like relate to?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, who stands out?
I don't have it up on my screen, but there was such a variety. I liked, was it the third person, an activist? No, second, well, up one. That one, I love, yeah, I think my students would identify with a lot of these people. I mean, not Albert Einstein.
Yeah, although I don't know, that's what I thought too. But then when I was trying to write this book, I was like, oh, he moved around a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
I definitely have kids who could like relate to that. Yeah, you know, had all these issues with like leaving, you know, having to leave countries and then leave other countries. You know.
Yeah.
Should you see anybody that looks especially like your kids might be interested in them or surprised to learn about them?
Yes. So Elizabeth, yeah, Elizabeth would actually be good.
She's amazing
for some of these things for my students. It was interesting. Sometimes I wish I had more girls in my class so they can experience things like this as their options to help support.
You have mainly boys.
Oh yeah, I usually, if it's usually probably like a 10-to-1 ratio.
Really?
Yeah.
But is it an elective? Like they sign up for it?
Yes, it's an elective. So I have a class right now and this class is small. I have, I think 6 or 7 students, and I only have one girl. And there's one Black girl in that class. I have no white girls in any of my classes.
Really?
Yeah. It bothers me.
What's the demographic of your school like? I don't know what.
I think on ratio is probably about like 60% African American, probably about that's actually economically disadvantaged. It's probably about maybe 55 to African American, probably 35 to 45 Caucasian. We do have Hispanic students, mixed race students. I do have more African American boys in my class. I do, it's interesting. They like technology. But I do have in a couple of girls I've had in my class, I've been trying to keep in my class, and
Yeah.
and they're really good at it, but
Yeah.
then they get pulled by other
Right.
electives or by other carrots, and I'm like, no, they could really do good in what I
Yeah.
have.
Oh, well, good luck with that. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta get those girls.
Mhm.
They're, and
Tanisha,
they always do. When I have girls in my class, they always do
Great.
a wonderful job.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. But then I wonder if they still don't think of themselves as STEM people. It's possible. It's definitely what I've seen.
Yeah, that happens. They do really good in my class, but I'm trying to give them options to then explore themselves with it, because I can say it that they are or are not, but until I get them to get the exposure or get them into other programs to support it, they'll be able to see it themselves. That's as far as I can really go with supporting them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's hard if the girls aren't there, because if you've got the girls there, like these lessons, you can really like call out issues around gender and representation in STEM, and then show them there are tons, there are all these amazing women doing stuff. So that will hopefully help them, see themselves as people that can do it too. But it's important, it's important to can't just pretend like it's easy. Okay, so does that look like something you might use? Could be
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Great. Okay, well then, so I wanted to go over the final three things just kind of quickly. The career panel, because I mean, organizing a career panel is slightly out of the realm of normal teacher stuff. It's a big thing. Maybe it's something that your school already does. They are amazing, like any kind of career. I mean, you're in career CTE, so you're already doing career stuff, but anytime you can make connections to careers and real people is amazing. The thing that I would really encourage you to do, and especially if this is already happening in your school and it doesn't look like this, is if you have a STEM career panel and every single member is a white man, that's not gonna fill the girls and the students of color with confidence that they could do that too. So when we've done this, I mean, this was in the summer, it was completely different from normal school. Like we spent hours trying to recruit people so that we basically had panels that were either entirely women or almost entirely women, and as a majority people of color. And yeah, super takes a long time. There's a lot of coordination because these people have jobs. We were able to pay them on this summer program, but we weren't able to do that. So it's difficult. So hopefully, I mean, basically in this isn't a lesson plan, it's just kind of a guide. So there's an email template. I had them, when they introduced themselves, actually talk about their identity right off in terms of culture. They then so we had like an initial panel, they introduced themselves, talked about their work, and then we had them at small stations. I'm sure you both know you can't have kids sitting in a room for an hour listening to a bunch of adults just talk. So we made the adults work way harder. They basically had a presentation that they gave 4 times, and the kids went in small groups, so it was much more personal and easier for them to ask questions. Had them write questions in advance. Had like a structure where they specifically were asked to talk about struggles they had on their career pathway, advice for pursuing STEM courses, etc. And then we had a closing panel. So yeah, and this isn't necessarily something that is easy to do in a classroom, but the resource is there if you can, or if you're already doing something and whoever's organizing it, wants some other ideas of how to design a career panel in a way that should hopefully help develop more students' STEM identities. Does that all make sense? Yeah. Any questions about that? Do you do anything like that? Any kind of career?
In my advanced class, after they take the AP test in May, then I have 3 weeks where I've got to keep these kids busy. So that's when we were reading the book. But I also had people I know who work in computers Zoom in, and
yeah, I mean, Zoom is a good way to do it as well.
And Well, and they were one at a time, one on one day, one on another day. So I had
Mhm.
a 27-year-old young woman who's a software engineer, the daughter of a friend of mine. She came and talked to my students. That was awesome. And then I had a former student, white male, who went to UCLA and got a computer science degree there. Both of them talked. So at least I got half non-traditional identity. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that worked out well last year. That was the first time
Yeah,
I
I mean,
had.
kids get a lot from talking to real people because as the teacher, you can tell them stuff again and again and again, but then when a real person's there
Yeah, exactly.
who isn't a
Exactly.
teacher, they're like, oh, okay. This one's super fun. That we invented. That it was great. I did not know the kids would be so into this. You know the game Heads Up? I think kids play on their phones where they have a thing on their head. So basically, and we've got like an intro activity, and then we just did it with STEM careers, and there's just a whole list basically. So the way I did it was I wrote them all out on post-it notes, and then it was adorable. I had these kids, they'd just come up to me and I stick it on their head or on their back or something, and then once they got it, they were allowed to get another one, and they just loved it. They just kept going. And some of these are like basically impossible because they've never heard of it before, and it's like a very specific career, but they'd help each other, eventually they'd work it out, and it was just fun. It was just a fun way to like list a bunch of careers and then have them try and explain them to each other. So yeah, it's kind of a silly activity, but with a yeah, they just end up with a list, a whole long list, and I really was surprised at how much they loved it. So there's that one, and then the last thing is, again, this is quick, or can be quick. It depends. I think if you're doing it with older kids, you could really get into it, but with younger kids, they may not have that much to say or not really know what to say yet. So this is where I mentioned the social identity profile. This is much heavier than the what did I call it? Multicultural identity one. This is, this actually gets into like list out different parts of their identity and has some questions. There are a bunch of these online. And then there's like a list that helps them learn about some of these words. So you can start with that if you want to, if it feels age appropriate to your kids. And then we talked about, we together as a whole group, we defined the two words power and privilege, and that some of the definitions the kids came up with were amazing. Really, really, really great. And then we had these questions up on chart paper around the room, and they had like a silent conversation where they wrote them on post-it notes and stuck them on the wall. You can do it another way, you could do it on Google Classroom or Padlet or something. And so, these first two questions are just kind of a bit more general about identity and power and privilege, and then how to use power and privilege in a positive way. And then this one is more specific. And if you're doing it in a STEM, in a lesson sequence that's like this, or activity sequence that's like this, it makes sense. So thinking about STEM professionals, if you've just met some or done that activity where you see all the different people and read about their jobs, how can these STEM professionals use their power and privilege to either benefit their local community, if that's what you're focusing on, advance sustainable development, if you're focusing on like building a solar suitcase and sending it to Kenya, or something else, some other thing that's relevant to your classroom. Then you can have the students, split up and like try and summarize the answers and discuss, and then wrap up with a reflection. So it's pretty, it's not, I wouldn't really call it a lesson, it's more of an activity, but it kind of, it's the last one that we have here. It kind of ends the sequence of, like, why are we thinking about these things? Why are we thinking about identity, and how does identity affect how people, move and act in the world? So yeah, that was it.
All right.
yeah, that's the STEM identity curriculum that we've developed. Do either of you, I think Aja put the question in the chat. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Do either of you see anything there that you think you might use?
Yeah, I'd like to. I'm gonna have to read it all and figure out how to put it in. But yeah, I'd like to. I like it.
Great. Anything specific, or just it just all look good?
Well, I definitely would love to do the one where students try to guess what all the people do and then find out what they actually do. I think that would be a real eye opener for people in a good way. But
yeah,
that's as far as I got right now. But
okay.
Yeah, I'd like to look them over again.
So it does seem like you could fit these into your classroom.
Yeah.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
Great.
I'd like to try. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. What about you, Kanisha?
Yes, I do see some of my standards interwoven into it.
Oh, great.
Especially for 6th grade, where we're introducing STEM and how STEM and engineering are connected. I do see that as something I can use as a preliminary and bridge some gaps in what I'm teaching. I think there are aspects of it that will kind of close that in, so I can get the engineering part, because that's the part that changed in my curriculum last year. So I'm still trying to work that out and put that in. And I think that this will help. There are parts of it like the multicultural self and STEM identity, analyzing STEM identity. Those stand out. And then the power and privilege, the power and privilege, especially even with what you have put, the developing student STEM identity with all of the people, the environmentalist activists.
Great, that's great. You're going to try it with 6th grade.
Having that too would help.
I'd love to hear how that goes, and how you adapt stuff. That's great. Okay, well, I'm going to stop recording.